January 6th. I know people will say it was an insurrection. People have, okay, fine. He wasn't charged with that. And there's a reason he wasn't charged with that. And it's not a technicality. And your approach and the approach of others people that, hey, this was just, these guys were in the wrong place, the wrong way, but that's all it was. I don't agree with that. I think it was a riot. And I think they were way over the line, and I think that they were motivated to go way over the line, in part by the President of the United States.
Obviously, were a riot, but let me ask you just a couple questions. One is, why can't we know how many federal agents were in the crowd and what they were doing there?
I'm fine with knowing. I love transparency. It is the key to
But
understanding.
it's the opposite of what we have, and there are thousands of hours of tape, and the release of which will not jeopardize security in the Capitol.
You cherry-picked that tape, by the way.
I aired what they sent me.
You cherry-picked it, though.
What's going on, everyone? It's Carlson here today, and we're going to be reacting to a clip I saw of, not a clip, but Tucker Carlson came out with a video with Chris Cuomo. Chris Cuomo's on this tour right now to like talk to both sides, and I think I like it. I think I like it a lot that people are going out and trying to like cross talk with each other again, because I think that's what needs to happen in my own day-to-day life. I talk to people who disagree with me every day. I have friends that are progressives, Marxist type, and we vehemently disagree on our chats when we talk about politics, what's going on, gun control. And I'm literally just bringing that same kind of argumentation and positioning that I have here on the internet. And the fact that a lot of people will demonize you for trying to talk to somebody of the opposite side, I think is really scary proposition that we're entering here as a country. Because end of the day, if you want unity, right, red pillars and all this stuff, like, you need to be able to talk to people like don't agree with you, and in the middle you'll get closer to the truth. And I'm starting to think that people are not interested in truth. People are only interested in pushing rhetoric, right? So I want to go into some the comments that Chris Cuomo brought up in the intro, and then we'll go into the full video at the end. Chris Cuomo confronts Tucker Carlson, as you saw from the intro, that he said he cherry-picked information. Now let me ask you something. Has the CNN ever cherry-picked any information? Has CNN ever clipped things out of context, like with Donald Trump? Donald Trump was the primary target of cherry-picking. So this is like a pot calling the kettle black situation here. Is that, oh yeah, you cherry-picked those footage. A year ago, when Kevin McCarthy exclusively provided Tucker Carlson 44,000 hours of security footage, right? See, people will say like this is I don't know. I think this is a non-argument from Chris Cuomo, honestly. I think this is a way of saying, oh no, look, you try to spin a narrative. Well, you did the same thing. Your January 6th committee ignored evidence that would hurt their conclusions, the narrative that they want to purport. Except my problem with the left is not that we do the same thing. The problem with the left is they're not honest when they speak about these things. They're not objective. They don't apply the standards equally. They judge based on your color. They judge things based on your gender, and they judge things based on your ideological tribe. And if you're on their ideological tribe, they don't point out some of the problems with your positions. They highlight and exaggerate how positive your position is. With Liz, what's her name? Liz Cheney. Oh my God, you said what we want. Oh my God, you're the true Republican. You're a future Republican president. They hype you up, put you as a media darling, say all kinds of good things about you because they need you to spin a certain narrative about Donald Trump, that Donald Trump is extreme. Look, even this Republican's not doing it. Cherry picking. But then you don't ask the hey, what evidence did the January 6th committee did not want allowed into the committee? How come we can't ask questions about the federal agents, right? So you're talking about, oh, cherry picking facts when there's videos out there showing that the bodyguards and the Capitol Police fired smoke grenades into the crowd, and the crowd say, remember, you started this, as they riot against them. Like, you don't want to acknowledge that the federal agents are the root cause of why the riot began in the first place, or as a possibility. And that's an angle I don't see a lot of people commenting on. All right. Another story came out recently, which is a day ago from the making of this video. January 6th committee hid evidence that Trump called for 10,000 National Guard troops to handle unrest, suppressed transcripts. Right. But these are the people we're supposed to be trusting. These are the people who don't care. These are the people who give us factual news, objective news. And then when I rail against journalists and their ideological bias, people in the comment section will try to reply, "It's both sides, Kenny. It's both sides." Last time I checked, Democrats are overwhelmingly represented in journalism. So how is it a both sides problem when you ideologically dominate an entire profession? So that means only one side is part of bias. The liberals, done. You overwhelmingly donate to the Democratic Party, done. Are you less likely or more likely to look at your people of your political tribe favorably versus unfavorably? Look at the coverage that mainstream journalists do towards Trump. 80% negative. But you don't have an ideological bias, journalists. The left want to sit here and run cover. Whenever someone's trying to go both sides, it's a way to obfuscate what they're doing and avoid criticizing their own side. That's one thing I noticed. That's the logical track that I always notice when I'm arguing against people, is that when I find something that's inconvenient on their side, they try to do a equivalency so they don't have to sit there and criticize and apologize for what their side's done. I noticed that a lot with the left. Transcript of an interview with President Donald Trump, former House Deputy Chief of Staff Anthony, I can't speak today. Anthony Arnoldo has been released, which provided evidence that the former president took steps bringing 10,000 troops to Washington, D.C. on J6 to protect the Capitol. The evidence has never been released by former Rep and January 6th Select Committee Vice Chair Liz Cheney and the January 6th Select Committee, even though Cheney was present for the interview. Dummy. Like cherry picking facts. Oh, you're doing the same thing. All we doing is countering the misinformation you inform the public, so you can get a foregone conclusion, so you can get support for an improper impeachment of Donald Trump. You see how Machiavellian these people is, and now this stuff comes out 2 years later, 3 years later, after it all happened, after they got their conclusion, after the narrative sat into the public consciousness. That's when they want to let loose all this information in the background, because now no one's paying attention for January 6th. People already have their minds made up about January 6th. It's an insurrection. And based on this false narrative, now they're trying to remove Donald Trump from the ballots. Now they're mad. Oh my God, you're an insurrection sympathizer, because they got enough time to repeat the lie. Remember, a famous socialist once said, repeat a lie over and over again, and people will believe it to be true. And this is communist tactics. But I digress. Enough rambling for me.
Regrettable. And I didn't think it was right. It wasn't right to call it insurrection, because an insurrection is a real thing. And I know people get mad at me about this, but
who gets mad at you about that?
There's a real...
Just tell me some names. Is this the girl who's going to beat you up is getting mad?
There are a lot of women. I'm telling you, Tucker, I'm going to start bringing them around you the next time we see each other.
I'm afraid of these chicks.
And you will see. You went to that UFC fight. If you had said this before and then walked into that fight, Trump even couldn't have saved you. So this is what I saw there. Insurrection is a crime. Okay, there's an Insurrection Act. You have a statute. You have the whole thing. There has never been an insurrection that was largely unarmed. Okay, and I know people are going to say they had fire extinguishers and sticks. If your intention is to take over the United States government, you're going to come heavy, you're going to come hard, you're going to be armed. This was a riot, and that's bad enough. January 6th was bad enough. It was a riot. Ashley Babbitt, for good reason, bad reason, no reason, was where she was. She put that officer in fear of his life with like 10 other people. And that's how she got shot.
We don't know that she put him in fear of his life, because there was never an investigation into it. They did. So Michael Byrd, the man who shot her to death, had already been sanctioned for leaving his loaded Glock in the men's room of the Capitol. Now, you tell me, I don't know what your view of firearms is, but I have a lot of views on firearms. You can't leave a striker-fired handgun with a bullet in the chamber,
right,
with no safety, and you leave that in the men's room as a cop, you should be fired immediately. That's negligent.
Him leaving a weapon somewhere is a bad move, but it doesn't have any relevance in terms of what he did.
Well, of course it does, because it speaks to his judgment. And here's the point I would make, is that Ashley Babbitt was not a mob. She was an individual. Right, but he didn't shoot a mob. He shot an unarmed woman who was under 5'5", who did not pose a mortal threat to him. And if she did, tell me how. And he killed her. And so just on the basis of those facts alone, I need to know more. But we don't know more, because there was no investigation. It was just swept under the rug. And then he goes on TV and accuses everyone of racism who doesn't like the killing that he committed. And then you have people on television saying, I'm so glad that she died. I'm so glad that she was killed. This is a veteran, by the way, who runs a pool company in San Diego. This is the person who served the country and who is getting the least benefit from it. She runs a freaking pool company, okay? She's not working at BlackRock. And her death is like totally fine because we don't like her politics. If they think it's okay to kill Ashley Babbitt when she posed no mortal threat to anybody, not even conceivably, then they'll be happy when I die. That's how I feel about it.
God forbid. And you're probably not wrong, because the fact that there's even a they in your analysis of it shows that we're in the wrong place.
Yeah, Morning Joe. I'm specifically of Morning Joe.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, but what I'm saying that humanity should be an absolute value,
Amen.
January 6th is a big example of what they can do when people are not paying attention, when people don't ask questions, when people just accept the authorities are speaking the truth, and then you realize the authorities crafted a narrative by cherry picking, Chris Cuomo, homage to you, about information that the public should have and don't have. And I think transparency, I agree with Chris Cuomo here. I think transparency is important. And I think it comes very important when the mainstream media has to identify their bias. And I think until media is transparent with their bias, and I'm following my own example. You guys know I'm a conservative. You guys know I lean right on a lot of issues. You guys know where I stand principally on a lot of these things. So you can tell when I'm being objective, when I'm just taking a certain take on it. But at least with me, you can say that, hey, Kenny shows examples of why he believes what he believes, and he leaves it up to me to make my own conclusions about it. Kenny's just giving a persuasive argument for his position. It's up to me whether I accept it or not. Because at the end of the day, it is my honest to God truth, my belief that you don't change people's minds. People change their own minds. You just give them the information to do it, right? I'm just a guide at this point, but I digress. Let's get into the rest of the video, and then I'll end off after this reaction. Let's take a look.
I'm fine with knowing. I love transparency. It is the key to understanding.
It's the opposite of what we have, and there are thousands of hours of tape, and the release of which will not jeopardize security in the Capitol.
You cherry-picked that tape, by the way.
I aired what they sent me.
You cherry-picked it, though, and you made it look like
I don't know what that means.
Like you kept showing the Indian guy walking around like it was the
Indian guy did over 2 years in prison for no crime whatsoever. I talked to him yesterday. Again, his name is Jake Chansley, and he's a very smart guy, actually.
I think I interviewed him also, by the way.
He's a good dude.
Definitely his lawyer. Maybe both.
He's pretty far out, but he's no more far out than Janet Yellen or anybody else.
Yeah, that's the problem with because the guy was innocent. He was one of the innocent rioters, right? Like, he wasn't rioting, really. He was just protesting. He was just walking through the Capitol, was being escorted by cops, but you want to put him in jail for 2 years. And you want to prevent evidence that would have freed him, which was the tapes that Tucker Carlson had. And you're saying that he's cherry picking. Like, to me, it should expose something in Chris Cuomo's head that, oh, wait, my side did it first. Because why did I think that Tucker Carlson was cherry picking 44,000 hours of footage? What's to say my side didn't do that? And I think it's that humility and that understanding of human nature that we're inherently fallible. That self-doubt. I think that the lack of self-awareness from many people on the left, it's what got us in this partisan, tribalistic warfare right now. Because they're not aware that the things they complain about the other side that they themselves are doing. This is why a lot of people on the right say, hey, anything the left is doing, they're projecting onto the right. And that's the truth. That's what's going on right now. You're talking about people can't have conversations, but Democrats are more likely to block people of opposing opinions. They created this echo chamber. They created this silo. Who's a big advocate for censorship? The left. But Chris Cuomo sitting here as if both sides are participating, both sides are doing it. No, one side's more guilty of it than the other, and it's the left. You could debate me with that in the comment section, but I digress.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, except Janet Yellen wasn't busting into the Capitol and walking around.
Janet Yellen's an actual criminal. I mean, Janet Yellen was Fed chair and then taking millions of dollars in speaking fees from the banks. What?
But look,
that's criminal behavior.
I'm fine with those types of ethical lapses and how we allow the system to keep going around.
Cuff her, baby!
Lock her up? Is that what you mean to say?
No.
But I do think that, look, I think that what I see in January 6th, what I see when it comes to immigration, what I see when it comes to Russia, Ukraine, all of these things wind up becoming fodder for division. You have to have a take. And it winds up having to be the opposite take that the other side has. And I really think that it's symptomatic of our decline.
I totally agree.
January 6th was either no big deal, the BLM stuff was worse, or it was an insurrection, and everybody there is treason.
So this is the both sides thing I was talking about. Is like instead of avoiding criticism of their own side, they want to make an equivalency. And the problem here is that you have people on the right condemning January 6th and say, hey, this is a bad move, doesn't make us look good. We shouldn't be doing this to the Capitol. We respect our law enforcement. Go home. Trump said it minutes after the people were found rioting or destroying some of the Capitol property and building. Objectively, BLM did cause more property damage and deaths compared to January 6th if you're looking at any objective measure. But for the narrative, oh no, both things are equally bad. Huh? What pot are you smoking? And this is the ridiculousness of them trying to really hide, criticizing their own side. And I think the reason why Chris Cuomo feel like that people demand people to take a position is because in reality, you do have a position. And is you trying to use this feign of centrism to pretend you don't have a position. And that is kind of counter against human nature in a way. Right? You don't believe in anything. There's nothing you would stand for. There's nothing you find intolerable. You're just a pure observer. Oh, you're God now. Like you're just above everything. And that's counter to human nature because we're tribal. It's in our nature to be tribal. And to not recognize that it led us to this belief that this problem that we have right now. A lot of journalists believe that they're like Chris Cuomo. I'm objective. I'm above it all. But then if you look at their actual work, you say, hey, this is a negative bias against Trump. This is unfounded assumptions and conclusions and framings that you're putting on Trump. What's your evidence to support that? Oh, isn't it just obvious? I'm just being objective here. Trump is a bad guy. How is he bad? And they can't explain it. Then boom, you just proved you had an unconscious bias. So in my view, it's only two types of people. People who are conscious of their bias and people who are unconscious of their bias. But there's no such thing as someone who don't have a bias. And I think this is the problem with a lot of people in mainstream media. And I think this is why people like me online and internet are the future of journalism, future of media, however you want to call us, is because it's a more authentic and more honest take. Instead of pretending I'm objective, I'm above it all, I always get everything right. You know I can be fallible. You know I can be wrong because I admit I have a bias. And I think that allows me to have more trust in my audience and in myself as well, that I can be like, hey, my audience, if I say something, if I misinform the audience or I've found to be wrong about my conclusions or framing of things, people can fight me in the comment section and I can learn and they can learn. So I think in a way it's happening organically, regardless if these talking heads are doing it or not. But I don't know. I just think that the spread of information, the spread of conversations needs to happen a lot more rapidly than the narrative. And right now, with the domination of the liberals, Democrats controlling all these institutions, they're trying to stifle that with censorship, misinformation laws, and all this nonsense. Like restricting and regulating speech benefits who? Republicans or Democrats? I'll leave that up for you guys to decide in the comment section.
We don't like what the president does. Treason. You know, or he did nothing. Everything is like that. Immigration, the migration stuff. You are hit with the stick of you are forwarding the replacement theory that the Democrats want to bring in as many brown people as possible to replace white people.
Well, they've said that. Repeated. Who? Well, they like 3 books have been written on it. I've
played 3 books. That's not the policy is not to replace white people with brown people.
So I'm interested. And by the way, I've never said white people. I said the current people who are born here. Many of them are not white.
Yes, I believe in the replacement theory. And if you're a person that tries to, I guess, pigeonhole it to an ethnic group, you're missing the whole point. The whole replacement theory, and ask the black community, ask Chicago, ask Philadelphia, who having immigration problems, ask New York, where these migrants are moving into. It ain't white neighborhoods. It's black and majority minority owned neighborhoods. That's where these illegals coming at. When the illegals got dropped out at Martha's Vineyard, which is overwhelmingly white, they got kicked out the same day. So immigration is not really affecting wealthy white coastal elite people. And this framing that, oh my God, it's some white supremacy talking point is a lie. It's a slander. It's a smear. That's what it is. Because it's an ad hominem. And to me, this is my biggest criticism of people on the left, that they rely too much on ad hominems because they believe they have some self-virtuous idea of themselves that they have credibility because they are liberal. that they are a Democrat and that there's a big bad Republicans. Oh, you're a cultist mega person. Get out of here. You're the biggest liars of them all. That instead of having a fruitful discussion, at least countering the replacement theory with evidence, right? Chris Cuomo didn't even give any evidence. I mean, Tucker Carlson could have explained that, hey, there's interviews of them talking about, hey, yeah, there's a growing demographic by 2045, this country will be a minority majority country, right? A less white country. This article's written about it, Chris Cuomo. It may not be a strategy, but it's an ideal that they strive for. And a lot of the Democrats' strategies and how they win elections, they bank on it. They're banking on this. They're saying, hey, yo, we want the minority vote to overwhelmingly go to the Democratic Party. These are our constituents. There's an idea that black people are their constituents, Hispanic people are their constituents, and that's why they want the population to continue growing in that direction, because they see it as a way of insulating Democratic control in these areas. This is why a lot of blue states have sanctuary cities. That's why red states don't have sanctuary cities, because it helps them in the census, right? These Democratic dominated areas, they get these illegals going through their sanctuary city. They can count them in the population numbers, and they say, hey, look, you need to give us 2 more seats because our population grew today. But, plausible deniability. The second weapon of the left. Plausible deniability. Oh, you can't directly prove that. Oh, that's just merely a correlation. There's no way that we're actually intentionally doing that. Well, okay, if you're not intentionally benefiting of it and you don't mean to benefit from it, let's stop it altogether. No, don't do that. Come on. You can't have it both ways. If it's not a problem, okay, let us ban it since you're not doing it anyway, right? Let us ban transgenderism if you're not teaching kids this stuff. But you're fighting against it. Why? Because you are doing it. And just because I have that conclusion, just because I decide to have the confidence and courage to just pick a position, hey, you're doing this intentionally. Look at your actions. I want to stop the action. Now you want to cry victim. I don't understand the left. The left loves to cry bully. They love to use their narcissistic, self-centered, self-righteous idealism, grandiose, like virtue signaling, to try to prove how much of a good guy they are, defending ideas that's functionally not at the benefit of the communities that they push these ideals onto. And this is why America is self-destructing. But, I digress. That's enough rambling for me. I think I've been talking a long time on this video. But let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section. What you think about the Tucker Carlson interview with Chris Cuomo. I found it interesting. I think it was a very good discussion. They talked about a lot of topics, especially the most interesting topic, I'll say, if you were watching this at the replay, is the future of media. I think that's a very important conversation between Tucker Carlson and Chris Cuomo. I hope you guys check it out. The full video is in the description below. See, when I take clips, those are things I care about. But if you want to watch the full thing for yourself without my commentary, I have the full video in the description below. But enough rambling from me. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.